The wrap 3D curve command creates a 3D curve by wrapping a 2D curve onto a cylindrical face. It's worth noting here that you can use a 3D curve or a 2D profile, but if it's a 3D curve, it does have to be a planar 3D curve, so it has to be basically a 3D curve that's on a 2D plane, so it may as well be a 2D profile, really. But you can use a 3D curve if you'd like to. Now we can choose between a curve or a feature. Now if we use the curve option, it'll actually select an individual curve from our profile, like we can see here. We can then select a face, and now we're seeing the preview of the wrapped curve on that face. We can change over to feature, and that will then allow us to select the entire feature, so not just an individual curve from that feature. It'll select now the entire feature there. As you can see it now displayed on the cylindrical face behind it. Now I'll select OK, and you can see that's now created a 3D curve there for us. I'll move it out of the way so we can get a better look at it. And there you can see our wrapped 3D curve. Now I'll delete that and show you some of the other options. We can also select onto text in a 2D cross-section like this. Again, I'll select onto the face. You can see that text is going to wrap onto the face there and create a 3D curve from that text. We've also got some location options here. Now, it's worth noting that this will by default use the projection option, which will project from wherever your text is, wherever your profile is here, which you can move around with the tribal, which is very easy and efficient to move things around. If you'd like to, though, we can use a reference point option. Now this will use a reference point to define the position of your item here. Now that reference point that it's using is the XY 0 point in the 2D sketch. So you can see the XY point in my sketch here with this text is actually up here and the Y is facing this direction. So that's why it can seem a little bit confusing that the text is over here and it's to the side. So we could go in, of course, and rotate that 90 degrees. Press the tab key to update, and then we'd probably actually want to rotate it 270 degrees. So as you can see, it'd be generally easier just to use the tribal there. And you can see it's also the wrong way round in this case. So we'd want to flip that. And we could probably put it onto the other side. For example, we could set this to 1. Oops, not 1000. Just 1.0. And that's now on the other side. And it's now making sense as text. If we flip it over like that, we could now only do the 90, and we're now seeing the word text again. As you can see, using that projection reference point option there is a little bit harder than using the project option. But if you do want to use it, you basically just select a point, and then you can define everything in relation to that point. So as long as you select a point on the surface, you can then go from there. So if I just find a point to select for us somewhere along this surface, I need to select into the point field first. And I'll select on a point like that, and that's now our reference point, and everything moves based on that point. So I could select the front up here as well, and then we can define everything relevant to that point. So again, I'll change this to 270, flip that over, and so on. And these are two scalar values, so they represent 50%, this is 0.5, and 1 represents 100%. So you can see that's on the base, it's 100% of the height, so down to the bottom. 0 will be at the top. 0.5 will be in the middle. Remember, it's also basing this off the reference point. So the reference point is obviously not in the center of our text, so that's the reference point, and the text is relevant to that. But you can see now with that at 0.5 and 0.5, it's exactly in the center there of the shape. And we also have tolerance options if we'd like to edit those. In this case, though, I'll switch back to projection, and this time I'll switch back to 0 degrees for the angle, because as you can see, we can quite quickly get a great result with the projection option, just like that. And we can also flip that if we'd like to, flip it back and forth. I'll now hit OK and project that text to get a 3D curve of that text. That's how to use the wrap curve command.